think the AP poll probably comes out next week at some point. I think it's almost assuredly Oklahoma at worst is probably going to be 3. I know ESPN ranked them in their preseason number 2, so I think you're probably at number 2 or number 3 for Oklahoma. And when you look at this team from a totality perspective, I think this is the best. I think coming into the season, I think this is the best total team that they've had probably since. Did a little bit of research yesterday, Mark, just kind of looking back on offense and defense. Probably 2004 is the team. The last time I think this team, this Oklahoma team, had as much talent and as much coming back and depth as they had. And 2004 was obviously Oklahoma fans will remember, was a terrible ending. But that team had a really good defense for the most part during the year. They gave up the 55 to USC in the championship game, but other than that, they only gave up 17 points per game on average throughout the year, including that game. So if you look at that, Mark, if Oklahoma's in a position where we're ending the season and their defense has only given up 17 points per game, I think it's probably a pretty happy ending for most Oklahoma fans, given where their offense is. But having said that, they've had 3 seasons coming into the season where they've been in the top 3 preseason, and really, Mark, none of those 3 seasons have turned out well. One of them was an 8-5 season, one of them was a 10-3 season, and I think another one was a 10-2 season. So it's a little bit of a championship or bust mentality. And when I say bust, it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody's going to get fired or anything like that. I think it's just a bust in terms of the anticipation and what these kids are putting in the coaches and the team is putting on themselves. So it gets down to matchups when you get to the playoff time. But I think certainly Oklahoma is in position to have a much better postseason than they've had in the past.
I posted a video a few months ago where I looked at the last 50 years of AP polls, and I matched up the preseason poll with the postseason poll to see how accurate they are. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it was generally there was no difference between being ranked number 1 and number 2 preseason in regards to your likelihood of winning the national championship. Those were almost identical. Maybe even the number 2 team had 1 or 2 more national championships. So basically identical between 1 and 2.
Yeah. And
then I looked at a top 5. I looked at the top 10, and then of course those outliers. And it shouldn't surprise anyone that in terms of the elite, now in terms of predicting 10 through 20, I didn't 10 through 25 looking at that. But in terms of projecting who's going to win the whole thing or who's going to be in the playoff, and looking at that top 4 to 5, shouldn't surprise anyone that the AP poll has been much more accurate recently. Again, at the top, I don't know if that means there are better predictions. I just think it's more predictable. Because I don't know that the rest of the poll was as accurate as you would think it would be. So it's just very much at the top between the 5 schools that we talk about all the time, finishing pretty much in the top 5 over the last 6-7 years. I know the last time that a team outside the top 10 preseason won the national championship was Florida State in 2013. They started at number 11, and the last team that was well down the poll was Auburn and Cam Newton in 2010. They started number 22 that year, and it's been since the late 80s, and I can't remember the team exactly that won a national championship preseason unranked. I'm not coming up with that team, but regardless, So those are just some nuggets concerning preseason polls and how accurate they could be. So my predictions are right there. So again, I say this constantly, and I got to get back into it because time is running out and the clock is ticking. So I have posted about 6 prediction videos. I will be running through the entire Power 5. So I've got Oklahoma right here, but I'm not going to tell you what I've predicted them to be because I'm releasing a video, and then we'll do at the end the conference championship games and the playoffs.
You know, for Oklahoma, they've been ranked preseason third or higher in three of the last 15 years. So not a lot of data points there, but when you look 2009, they were preseason ranked number 3. They finished 8-5. That was the year. You know, you give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that year. That was the year that Sam Bradford got hurt twice early on, and then Landry Jones as a freshman has to come in. So you give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. But
was that the BYU opener?
Yes, it was
that season. Yep.
Yes. And then 2011, they were actually preseason number 1, and they finished 10-3 that year as well. They finished ranked number 16th in the country from a preseason number 1. So that was actually the season that Oklahoma State won the Big 12. So they not only did Oklahoma not even play for a national championship being preseason number 1, they didn't even win the Big 12. One of the few years in the last few years that they haven't won the Big 12. And then recently, as 2016, Oklahoma was preseason 3. They finished 11-2 and finished number 7. So that was the year that Oklahoma lost 2 of their first 3. They lost to Houston in the beginning of the season opener, and then a couple of weeks later they lost to Ohio State at home, and that was in Bradford's, I think, his second year. But that team finished well in terms of they won 10 games to end the season. It's the team that beat Auburn in the Sugar Bowl, and it was a kind of a catalyst towards that playoff year the next year. So I think there's a lot of similarities that Oklahoma takes from 2019 into 2020, from 2016 into 2017. So, if that materializes on the field, who knows? But that was a very comparable season from that season to last year. What in terms of what Oklahoma will hopefully bring to the table this year.